The chair recognizes the honorable member from Marco City.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy. I want to first say thank you to all of the members of the Marco City team for the incredible work that they have done, and to express my gratitude to them for the sacrifices they have made over a number of years. After Hurricane Matthew, many of the persons in Marco City continued to help others even though they themselves were challenged. And I want to say to all of you how grateful I am for your guidance and your continued concern for the residents of Marco City. I also want to say a special thanks to my mother, Sister Laura Benson, for her continued prayers, her godly example, and for loving all of her children unconditionally, even when we caused you tremendous challenges. And to my wife, Berlice, and my daughter, Michaela, who have sacrificed a great deal. All of our spouses who have joined us in this incredible journey of nation building face the challenge of public scrutiny and sometimes unwarranted attacks. And I want to say, Berlice, I love you, and to Michaela, I love you. I told the story recently how my daughter said just before election, Daddy, I hope you lose so you could spend more time home. It is telling the things that children observe. And I must tell you, for a moment I was a little concerned. I ain't superstitious, but I was worried. I also want to say a special thanks to the wider Marco City family, the residents who have embraced our team and who recognize that we absolutely love them and we're committed to their welfare. We have a saying in Marco City that we're prepared, once election is over, to serve all residents, because we believe that when poverty strikes, it really does not check to see what your politics is. And the challenges we face in this country as it relates to crime, the criminal doesn't stop to check who you voted for in the last general election. So we have tried to discharge our duties to Bahamians. And we believe it has paid dividends, that somehow we've plugged into something that St. Barnabas is plugging into, where we don't just talk this business of loving and serving Bahamians, we are manifesting it in how we behave. Because somehow we managed to get in this house, and it's amazing to hear the bombing on the table. This is how it started out. Bombing in month 1 and month 2, and laughter and feeling real powerful. And then 5 years later, most people are gone and a couple returned. But we believe that it's important to serve everyone and not demonize the other side. I'm a member of this organization, the Free National Movement, because I still believe that we represent the best possible hope of being the vehicle for change in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And I don't demonize PLPs because there are good people in every organization, and I think a tremendous amount of talent has been elected in this cycle, and so I'm looking forward to you lessening the burden that Bahamians face. But let me say, but I do have a challenge with the political culture that has survived in the Progressive Liberal Party, and it is my hope that the elder statesman and veteran firebrand Glennis Hannah Martin, the member for Angliston, will help set the right tone for a lot of our supporters. A culture has survived that permits bullying. Persons walking into ministries and pointing to folks and asking them if they're still there. You know, you could be going next week. Well, maybe it'll be sooner. And it's tolerated. A culture that permits persons to be released even though they are duly hired. I'm happy to hear from the member of Golden Gates and for the member of Fox Hill that they're going to address the matter of those persons in Grand Bahama. So I would pause on much of what I had to say with respect to that matter to see how it plays out. But it is so important that governments are truly continuous, that persons who are hired and duly hired in positions where they are needed, and we're not using the government system, the public service, as an employment agency, that those persons be permitted to continue to feed their families. Because being hired over the last 4.5 years doesn't tell the story of who you voted for. Contracts being canceled. Doesn't matter which administration do it. If you do it with the wrong motives, it is indefensible. And we certainly do not expect that under this administration that we are going to disenfranchise Bahamians and put them on the street. And it is a short-sighted strategy, because the truth is that some persons who may have, let's just say hypothetically, a bulk waste or a garbage collection contract might be supposedly identified as F&M, who happen to be married to a PLP whose all children have voted yellow, or is it blue? One of the colors. The point is, we have to be careful how we are disenfranchising Bahamians. So I have a challenge with the culture. I don't have a challenge with the talent. So let me say, yeah, one that would take a Quentin LaRota.
And the chair recognizes the honorable member for Western Grand Bahama.
I'm just wondering if you're saying that you have trouble with the culture of the PLP.
I identified the areas that I have a challenge with in terms of the culture. I spoke about the bullying.
No, yes. I'm concerned about when you talk about jobs and contracts, because if you would reminisce, just 4 years ago, when you took over and became the government, how many were disenfranchised? Tell
me. No, I don't remember. Tell me.
And how many who had contracts, like bus contracts in Grand Bahama, lost their contracts?
Except though I said to you that wherever any inappropriate actions are taken, it's indefensible. But let me help you out. But let me help you out. But let me help you out a little bit. When we came to office last time, there were a number of persons who were hired in inland revenue on short-term contracts. You did stop the time for me. Thank you very much. Who were hired on short-term contracts. Every one of them, their contracts were regularized and they continue in their employment. All of us who've been here for a while, we know that in Ministry of Education there was unprecedented level of hiring, unprecedented. And those persons were hired in some cases on the eve of election, up to the night before. And so when persons went to their ministries, they found all of these folks who were hired. But the reality is they were kept. And many of them were not hired on delegated authority. They were directed to go and work. But they were regularized. So if you don't want all that, let me help you out. Then let me help you out. Let me make it easier for you. Many of them remained employed, including Ministry of Transport. And I'm not criticizing the act. I'm just saying that we kept the vast majority of them. That's all I'm saying. And so, and of course, urban renewal.
The chair recognizes the member for Angleton.
You give him.
Yes, please.
I think that the leader of government business made the point that you seem to have an innuendo or suggestion. The member for Marco City seems to have an innuendo or suggestion that there's some special culture to the Progressive Liberal Party, which is victimizing, et cetera, et cetera. I wouldn't want the member to go there, because I served under the prior administration and couldn't get one house repaired. And I can go, let me just finish, please. Let me go on and on. So I really do not want a misrepresentation of the culture of the Free National Movement in its viciousness and specificness against people who did not support it.
I have And I'll continue to stand with you whenever you identify a case where somebody has done or said something that is indefensible. But that would not rob me of raising my voice in this place to make sure you join me when I identify cases where people have acted in an indefensible manner. Because what I found, let me just be clear, what I have found over the last 4.5 years is that while I sought to be balanced in my critique of how we have performed in government, I did not see that reciprocated. So what we want is a culture of decency without reciprocating it. And so when I can hear members of the Progressive Liberal Party do as a mature politician did from West End and Grand Bahama, to attribute successes to the former administration without playing the petty politics of skipping over an entire administration's work to talk about what we are doing now and what the PLP did 4.5 years ago, then we have a problem. And it is my hope that those persons who are joining the administration do not fall, do not continue down that unfortunate path. I've heard some interesting comments, for example, about the need for food security. This is an age-old problem. We've gone backwards as a country, without question, over the last 20 years. But it seems as if we are unwilling to pay attention to what has in fact been accomplished. I don't believe there's a need for example, urban renewal to duplicate services that already exist. The Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources, with a very capable minister and a very capable director of BAIC, it's already producing backyard kits. We've purchased well over 20,000 of them and distributed them to every single constituency in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. In the Ministry of Youth Sports and Culture, for example, is running a community sports program. So there isn't really a need for us to duplicate the services. We need to put our heads together and to figure out how we could streamline the scarce resources we have to execute the programs effectively. The truth. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Every constituency. Well, I promise you, in 2026, I'm gonna get you some. I'll get you some. So let me also say that in the school system, Nassau Village, we are already in the process of installing aquaponics and hydroponics systems in a number of the schools. They're being done. It's in train. So again, we're not breaking new ground. We should do what governments do. Governments are continuous. Continue those programs that work, critique and eliminate those programs that don't. So we have a marvelous opportunity. That's why I believe that every minister, every chairman should be mature and have a proper handover exercise where you're able to meet with your predecessor. And if they are immature in their politics, maybe they will not want to meet. I believe my colleagues will be happy to be of assistance because we want the Bahamian people to succeed. We want to make sure that you do well because the people we absolutely love, we want them to do well. And so we ask you to let us make sure, and I believe my colleagues would be more than willing to assist in handover. Put it to the test. Put it to the test. I've certainly said to Minister Clay, who attended each of the consultations we did when we were in the chair, we made sure every major policy or legislative consideration or program, we sought to meet with members of the opposition to lay out the case so that there wouldn't be any lack of continuity in governance. We have an opportunity. And so if we want a real revolution, I would say, I love the presentation. If we want a real revolution, then when we do urban renewal, what we would do, Mr. Minister, is stop what we did before, taking children out of school and putting them in the wonderful band, love to hear them play, bringing 4 ministers from intersecting ministries, having them come and celebrate the fact that we took one house, let's be generous, say 2 houses, that were 600 square feet, made them 800 square feet, and while it was transformative for that life, we made it seem as if we were doing something transformative. For people with the kind of talent, we have the resources that we have available. And we celebrated that. When the reality is, through that same corner where we celebrated the transformation of that 1 house or 2 houses, there were 30 homes in the same or worse condition. So if we're talking about change, we're talking, and I'm pulling for you. I'm pulling for you not to tinker around the edges, to do great and grand things. Well, the great and grand things we need is a 5-year plan. Do it bold. Do it bold. Do it bold. Make sure that we eliminate the outside toilets that are rampant throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And so when the member for Fox Hill talked about the deficits in Long Island, when he spoke about the deficits of Long Island, I was wondering, would it not be also appropriate and balanced to mention some of the other constituencies historically represented by the Progressive Liberal Party, where similar conditions exist and people are languishing in a state of poverty? Would it not be more balanced? Because then we can take the assessment in the spirit I hope it had been delivered in. And that is, no problem. I wish to amend the story, edit it for a moment, and just to simply say we have real problems with many Bahamians who are without potable water, who have outside toilets in the constituencies that we represent. And so when we bomb the desk for the team that we are part of, let's do so with a consciousness that that public knows that that same team have missed many homes over the years. And so all of us, from the time of the Grandstand Development Project, we have gone through the same tired cycle of clearing down these vacant properties, paying the same fellows with the heavy equipment, and every year the rainy season comes, it goes back up, and we pay the same persons plenty money, and seem not to have the presence of mind to go ahead and mulch some trees and put down some wood chip or mulch or landscape them. Every administration has done it. I don't know if you're all tired, but I know I'm tired of it. Because we have an opportunity, instead of just paying the heavy equipment guy, to pay the landscaper, to Nassau Village Point, to pay the person committed to community gardens so that they are able to go in and help create a community garden so the persons are able to generate revenue and income in the community, to shave some dollars off their bill. We have an opportunity to do some incredible things. So let's start. Let's start by changing the inner city area. Let's start by not assuming that our administration has the only blueprint, and that maybe we need to find a way to collaborate in meaningful ways. So if we're going to talk to the U.S., I'm willing to support on this side sending a joint letter to the Charge d'Affaires or whomever it is necessary in the U.S. to make the point that Bahamians need to be treated with dignity. And they shouldn't be missing their flights on a continuous basis because somebody is on an ego trip, can't handle Bahamians who are able to travel every single week while they're stuck here in paradise. And so I'm willing to, what is going on?
The chair recognizes the honorable member for...
Member of Parliament for Marco City. In response to your statement that you made regarding the bond, I want to be clear. Are you saying that the bond didn't make any sense, or it doesn't make any sense? Could you...
Forgive me for a moment. It's not a point I want to, but I'll answer that at the end.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. I love bonds, and I thought it was wonderful to train all of our young people in instruments, etc. What I am saying is that we are celebrating mediocrity, policymakers, that we are contented to fix one small house and give the impression that we're doing something incredible for the country, when through each of the corners, you will find 20 houses just like it that we don't have a plan of action to change. That's the point I'm making. Well, you know, we could say that, but I'm just saying to you, for 25 years, from 25 years, you cannot identify one corner in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that we have managed to transform when it came in contact with urban renewal by whatever name, under the F&M, under the PLP. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And so I'm saying we have some big issues. You know, the issue of commonage land, the issue of generation property that we've talked about indefinitely. The problem we have where on the issues of crown land, that these decisions are made by, generally under all administrations, one person. These are fundamental issues that people have a problem with. We'll never get past this issue where we are slowing down development because persons who have viable projects are unable to get the allocation of land with a fee simple title so that they could go out and do business. And so it is my hope that this administration would make a difference in ensuring that we stop the bottleneck of executing these critical decisions, and that you have an opportunity right now. That's revolutionary. A committee that can check the box. Is this person qualified to receive this land or this community qualified? You check the box and let them have it and they're off to the races. That's the kind of revolution that I'm interested in. And so at this age, the truth is, I've heard so many politicians. We've come in this place when I was in the Senate on 2 separate occasions. I would listen to us celebrate something that we would have accomplished, like helping some of the folks who have disabilities. Because we decide now we're going to amend a piece of legislation to make sure that ramps are available for all buildings that they go in. And then we start patting ourselves on the back as if we've done something fundamental. When the truth is, it has been us who've been behind the 8 ball because the non-governmental organizations in the community were petitioning us for over 20 years to do what we finally do. And we're praising ourselves for the inaction of our predecessors or us ourselves who served for a long time. I'm only saying, especially to those that have just joined us in this house, you have to be restless about the work that we do. And so the bombing sounds good. I used to try and spare my hands because I know that we come as we've come in here and we're laughing and we're talking about matters that quite frankly, a lot of them are entrained. The speech from the throne, I love the tone of it. I love the tone of it. It sounded, for those that were in the audience, yearning for change, yearning with hope that things will change, that a mother or a father can have their child have confidence in the Bahamas that they're willing to come back. Yes, the speech struck that chord. It gave the impression that something is likely to happen. But I guarantee you, this public is uneasy because they keep seeing the same play. People coming in all enthusiastic, new persons all idealistic, and they run into a political culture of inertia. We have an opportunity to do something different. And so I encourage those that have come in with fire in their belly not to get sidetracked. We used to sit over there. It was a lot of us. And there was a few over here. I want you to believe that unless you execute on behalf of the Bahamian people, the roles can in fact be reversed. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And so as I listened to the speech from the throne, a couple of things occurred to me. One, that most of what was criticized while you were in opposition, unfortunately, didn't appear as if there was a strong legislative agenda to reverse those issues. The vast majority, in fact, if I remember correctly, all of the pieces of legislation, it was only signaled that they would be amended. We had no details, obviously, it's a speech from the throne, so we have no way of knowing if fundamental changes are in fact going to occur. And so what is interesting is despite all of the criticism, the same agenda appears to be continuing. And one of the things that also interests me is I listened to the speeches. My good friend, the member for the Exomas and Ragged Island, I could on occasion replace him with Dionisio because the content of much of what was being said about the rebound of tourism, and you two look alike as well. And so so much of what was being said, Exoma, much of what was being said about the rebound in tourism is pretty much was forecasted by the outgoing minister, the Minister of Tourism. And so I want to say by way of you, Mr. Deputy, that it is important. It is important that we are careful when we are in opposition with the level of criticisms that we have. And then we come in and we are forced to read the speech prepared by the technical staff that's attributing success to the very same policies, legislation, and programs that were criticized. That's why I'm saying that we should be a little bit more balanced. No, because I think it's about integrity of speech, meaning we shouldn't be up in the business of seeking to raise the misery index. That everything is wrong in the country, we attribute it to the government that's in. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And so I believe that we missed an opportunity. We missed an opportunity. So consider this for a moment. In the ministry with responsibility for health, our administration left in place several pieces of legislation that are ready to go. I heard the discussion about the cannabis industry. It appears as if that the Progressive Liberal Party is going in the direction of recreational marijuana. But there's a bill that's completed on industrial hemp, a bill that is completed as it relates to medicinal. No, except that we're not. You and I are twins on this matter, so I'm not worried about that part. All I'm saying is this: that you have several pieces of legislation that are completed, right? Just a compendium just in this area. One on industrial hemp, a second on medicinal marijuana, a third on really the restorative justice, where our intentions were in making those amendments was to wipe out thousands of young people's record on small quantities of marijuana. So we're happy that you're doing that because we need to do it. But the legislation is ready. Let's bring it. Let's make it happen. And then, of course, the fourth piece was, you know the answer, and the fourth piece was to ensure that we amend the Dangerous Drug Act in order to facilitate all those things. In the Ministry of Agriculture, there's a bill relative to BAMSI. So there's a series of pieces of legislation. In immigration, there's another bill that is prepared that I'm pretty sure that the minister will go and look for it. And Minister, you had such a wonderful, consummate public servant in Quinton LaRoad. It was so unfortunate that the investigations were not done to appreciate that here's a gifted man who can be an asset to the country in the capacity that he was appointed previously, and unfortunately it appears, I could be absolutely wrong, it appears that politics got involved and the young man had been moved. And so again, the point I'm making is that there are a number of pieces of legislation that are ready to go. So we're expecting that we're going to have, member for Western and Bimini, we're going to have a robust legislative agenda, without question. With respect to the property spoken of in 8 Mile Walk, it would be wonderful if in our next sitting that you're able to bring for us the details with respect to what the impasse was relative to that building. I'm advised, obviously it's not a ministry that I was in, that there may have been two owners of contracts for that building that were forced together in a relationship in order to complete a building, and they seem to have had an impasse. And that...
No, you don't have to wait.
Oh, you're able? No, but please, at Yale, please stop the clock.
The chair...
That is not true. It had nothing to do with the contractors. It was a model that we followed with the Free National Movement when they built the St. Mary Patricia School. They had two contractors. They worked together. They got funding when it was required from the ministry. The problem in this case was the ministry did not fulfill its obligations as steadily as it was expected. That's what happened.
So there weren't...
That's what happened. No, there were no conflicts. There were two contractors. No conflict.
Money. It's money.
And so on next week when we debate the bill, in the event that that we're able to highlight what we discovered in our investigations, you're willing to maintain that position? Okay, good.
This is just so interesting, to raise that. Yeah. When 3 projects in West Grand Bahama and Bimini, none were completed. But none were completed. And why was that? Why was that? Only one project you completed in Grand Bahama, two led by the PLB.
I spoke of the one that I felt I had some familiarity with, and that you seem to have omitted just some salient points. That's the only point I was raising with respect to that. So, sorry? Who was that? I don't have a clue you're talking about, but Mr. Deputy. Mr. Deputy, we have an opportunity over the course of the next few years to do some things for the people that we say we love. I want to leave with this House and with the public that I believe one pathway to getting there is for us to have mature discussions in this Parliament. That we ought to collaborate with each other on things that make sense for the Bahamian people. That we ought not demonize Bahamians. We ought not deprive members of the Free National Movement from eating and being employed in the public service under your watch. I'm simply indicating the kinds of things that I'm hoping for our people. And it is my hope that we would also find a pathway for collaborating on moving with urgency in addressing the matters that exist in Grand Bahama and Abaco without consistently making a determination on what the public has already made a determination on. They felt that someone else might manage the process faster. We are relying on you now to make determinations that are in the best interest of the Bahamian people. I want to say, as I close, that in Marco City we will continue to work together, all Bahamians, to solve problems that exist. In our community, there are a number of persons whose electricity are off, persons who are challenged in terms of the food program. I would submit, Minister, that it's important for us not to have people on inordinately long lines lining up to get food vouchers. Distribute it to multiple centers who can in fact distribute vouchers. In Grand Bahama, we are fully expecting that every constituency office that serves all the people are a part of the distribution network. Yeah. We represent all the people. And you cut the legitimate representatives of the people, you cut them off at the knees when you do not include them. We will resist that. I know about that. Yes. And so we have a commitment that we'll be doing that.
To the member from Marco City, you know, if you heard my initial statements when I became minister, I have a difficulty with long lines. I have a difficulty with long waits. You talk about people with electricity and seeking rental assistance. 6 months they have to wait in some circumstances. We're fixing that. We're fixing that because it is wrong. When people hurt, we're there for them. And every constituency, it doesn't matter which constituency it is, Marco City, Pine Ridge, West End, the same. We are going to use all distributing centers, and all people will be given assistance by this progressive Liberal Party government.
But I'm asking specifically. We're still on the exchange. I'm asking specifically: will we be a part of the distribution to the residents in the area that we are presently serving? That's what I'm asking. Correct.
They will be kept in, and we will keep them informed, and we will ask for their assistance in whatever we're doing in the constituency.
But I'm recommending to you a specific formula. The formula ought to be that every member of parliament inside this hall should have an opportunity to distribute vouchers to the residents in their area. If they're not interested, that's on them. But let me give a practical example. In the last cycle, some of the NGOs were in fact attempting to distribute items, and they didn't know who the residents were. The constituency office with the member of parliament had to go and assist them in terms of figuring out who they ought to distribute it to. And so we're expecting that we will be a part of the distribution. We are also expecting, I'll let you speak, that the roadworks that are being done, that you will also be involved in Freeport proper in making that happen. Sorry, you were going to say.
On that point,
stop the clock.
In the previous administration, you were asking for something completely new, and I'm with you. We will do it differently. In West Grand Bahama, I know of people who didn't have anything and they were passed by, and they were told that because you don't support, and they did that. Now, I'm telling you, no, you're not, I'm telling you what happened. Because passed by those who had the vouchers to distribute, who represented the constituency of the former member. The point I'm making here is this. That is not the way this party operates. That is not the way we intend to operate. And if we have to call upon you, we will. There's no difficulty. It's your constituency. We're not going to do anything in the constituency without talking to members of parliament to ensure, because who are we catering? Who are we serving? The people. That's our responsibility. And we want to deliver to the people. And we will.
Why find that a bit...
Sure. Chair recognizes the Angleston.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy. See, I have the advantage of having been here, not newcomer, the new blood and all of that, right here, with a constituency, and I know what I went through. But on the issue of food distribution and what you just suggested, my office, which is a constituency office, became de facto a distribution center for the bags. I never gave out one, because I don't really know if you should do that, but I never gave out one. We did that because they had to go into the Grove area with long lines, and we were able to assist about 100+ individuals who came seamlessly to collect. When it was found out in this parliament that that was happening, the member for Kalani knows, because I think he really didn't like it. It was immediately stopped. So you talking now with something even more radical, where you go take your voucher and you go give it to people. I allowed my premises to be used, and you stopped it, and you inconvenienced people for politics. So when you talk about all this politics talk and all that, and I know you well, Marco City, I'm talking generally about what has happened in this parliament. I know as a member of parliament, only 1 of 4, what I had to go through for basics. We have a basketball court that was slippery and people falling and breaking bones. And eventually the Minister of Works, to be fair to him, agreed. But I compared it to St. Barnabas. No, they didn't have that issue. They had a fantastic, beautiful park developed. And children in Engliston, little boys and girls, falling down and breaking their bones. The Over the Hill initiative was to pull back, stench, be niggardly with the people of Engliston. So I just say to you that, and I want to agree, that what you're saying, you know, we'd have to think about it, but I know even for my premises being used, between the Kalani and the then Minister of Social Services, it was stopped.
We know it wasn't you.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Marco City.
West End and Bimini, it is important that it's not seen that others, NGOs in the community that I represent and have a mandate from, are doing the job that we have been tasked in this House to do. And so I leave that with you. Again, as I close, I wish to thank the Governor General for delivering the speech from the throne, and to express our admiration for the work that he's done in this country. And I wish finally to thank Almighty God for giving us another opportunity to come here and do the people's business. It is my intention to be constructive in my engagement, but I also intend to fight on behalf of those persons in the event that they are disenfranchised. And so with those few words, I'd like to say, I love you, Marco City, and I will see you tomorrow for office hours.
That's many.